probably feel like you're doing your absolute best. The library feels like a second home to you. You are over caffeinated, you're eating sugar, and in order to stay awake, do your assignments, you're probably neglecting your health here and there, you know, prioritizing school, prioritizing grades. And for some reason, everything that you are doing feels like it's not paying off. Either you are a mediocre student, by that I mean like you're a B student, occasional C's, or maybe you like get A's and B's, but like you haven't reached that 4.0 status yet. Good morning, good evening, good wherever you are. My name is Hannah, and as a data analyst, MPH graduate, and a part-time Sunday school teacher, I make faith-based and holistic living content here on YouTube. Video, I'm going to be talking about how I maintained a 4.0 and transitioned from a mediocre student to becoming a 4.0 student while working 30 to 40 hours per week and maintaining a social life. So the fourth mistake comes from Sara Blakely. So Sara Blakely is the inventor of Spanx, which is worth over $1.2 billion today and has a presence in over 50 different countries. Sara Blakely's father would ask her this one question every time she came home from school, and that question is, what did you fail at today? And so what this question essentially gets at is that in order to fail at something, it means that you went outside of your comfort zone to try something new, to try something that you're not good at. So in order to fail at something, you have to have tried. And so in the context of making mistakes and staying a mediocre student, what this means is when you have a question in class, you are likely the type of student that doesn't raise their hand to answer. So if you can relate with this, I was exactly this type of student when I was in undergrad, especially my first 2 years of undergrad. I never raised my hand. I was too ashamed, and I was scared of, you know, asking a dumb question. I was scared of maybe what the professor would think of me or what my classmates would think of me. And so the shame sort of kept me from asking these questions. So, but in order to ask these questions, we must have sort of a context of what's being talked about in class. So the biggest game changer when it comes to that, either reading the chapter or skimming the chapter or skimming the title before I come to class, or skimming the lecture notes, especially the lecture notes. You don't even have to read the whole chapter. Read the lecture notes before you come to class. If you have a context of what's going to be talked about in that lecture, then you can follow the lecture with the professor and then ask those questions. It's likely that one of your classmates or someone around you also has the same question. They're just not brave enough to ask it. So even if you feel is a silly question, you learn something from it. You could spend 2 hours outside of lecture trying to figure out an answer on your own that, you know, you wish. I've done this before. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had asked this question in class, then, you know, I wouldn't need to spend this extra 2 hours on my own trying to figure this thing out. The only questions that are silly or not smart are the ones that you're too scared to ask. The next mistake that I'm going to be talking about has to do with filtering our focus. So we've all taken those classes and those courses like biology or psychology where you are given a textbook and the teacher tells you read 2 chapters, and maybe those 2 chapters are 15 pages each, and so you have 30 pages total of something that you're supposed to understand and prepare you for the exam. So when I was new in undergrad, I made the rookie mistake of focusing on those chapters instead of what the professor was saying. So I was that goody two-shoes student that makes sure to, you know, read every single page that I was assigned, but I would never focus on the lecture slides themselves. So what I was missing out on is the fact that the professor is an expert in their field. Their lecture slides are filtered and they're not focusing on every single thing that is within those 2 chapters, but selected things that they know is relevant to the context or the subject or the field or the discipline. They're focusing on a narrow window of things and not necessarily those 2 chapters itself. So there's this amazing author named Newport. He has his PhD and he is a teacher at MIT, wrote this book called How to Become a Straight Grade A Student. This book takes these group of students from different universities and colleges, and it essentially looks at what they all had in common. Similarity between all of these students is that they were involved in extracurricular activities, they were either working full-time, and at the same time they managed to pull this 4.0. And what were they doing and how did they do that? And so one thing that they had in common is their ability to filter through what is important. They all attended lecture regularly. In lecture, as the professor says, oh, you know, the specific content is not going to be on the exam, or this problem, don't worry about this types of problem. You spend your time focusing on the wrong things. So maybe there are 30 pages that the professor assigned for you to read, but maybe he focuses on 5 pages and tells you to ignore 25 pages. Knowing what to focus on and knowing what to study, not to study for, using the lecture slides to do that, asking questions after class, even simply asking the professor, hey, is this thing going to be on the exam, or should I focus on this or this, can significantly raise your chance of getting a 4.0 just because you're focusing your attention and energy on the things that actually matter and the things that are going to be on the exam. And so the last tip that I'm going to share today is about exercise or lack thereof. One of the books that changed the trajectory of my life is called Spark, The Revolutionary Science of Exercise and the Brain. In this book, they had the study with 2 groups of high school students. The first group of students were the exercise groups. These groups would work out or do cardio in the morning and try to get their heart rate up to 60 to 65% of what would be the max. And the second group was the non-exercise group that didn't have to work out much. And so they followed these students a couple months later, and the exercise group outperformed the non-exercise group significantly in their academics as well as behaviorally. So when I first started exercising for the first time, some of the things that I noticed was how sharp my focus suddenly became. My bloating and my stomach would hurt for sitting like, you know, hours, or I'd feel bloated and achy just because I'm studying for long periods of time and, you know, not moving around so much. So this bloating, initially it was either reduced or like I didn't have it at all. And waking up in the morning became so much easier. Before, I used to wake up so groggy and tired, and then after I started working out, that did a 360. And so that was my last rookie mistake that I'm going to share with you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what you want to see next time. But that is all for today, and thank you for watching.